everybody and welcome to my channel. Today we are going to be spinning for episode 3 of the Wheel of No Appeal. So first we need to go over some changes on the wheel, which is always really exciting. If you haven't seen previous videos, very quickly, red is bad. Red are books that I really just have no interest in reading whatsoever due to length, topics, etc. Yellow is like danger zone. I really don't want to pick these up either, but not as aggressively as the red ones. Like, it wouldn't be the end of the world if I got those, which I did get a yellow last time and I ended up not liking it. And then everything else is kind of like middle place except for green. Green are my like safe squares. They just are books I haven't picked up, but I would like not be super upset if I landed on those. So those are kind of like no appeal, but safer. So first of all, we have a spot to fill, a yellow spot from last time, but I'm also taking off a red spot because I have to read tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow for March anyway. So I was going to try and spin for it, but I was like, it's going to be in a different vlog. So we are going to remove it and add something else in its place. So we could actually be getting 2 reds this month just because I have to read tomorrow for, I believe it's Katie Colson's book club on her Patreon. Okay, so the one I promised myself I was gonna put on here, if I got rid of that one, was the one I was avoiding putting on here, and it is Priory of the Orange Tree. I've had this book a while and I haven't read it. I just look at it. So I'm terrified to put it on here because 1, it is really long. Number 2, it is high fantasy. I don't read high fantasy. And number 3, if I don't like it, I have to get rid of it. And I don't want to get rid of it. It's too pretty. And then we also have our yellow spot to fill, which had The Lost Apothecary, which is what I read in the last book, in the last video. And what do I want to put here? Oh, I know which one we're going to put here. We are going to put The Betrayals by Bridget Collins. I've had the book for a while and I just haven't picked it up. I haven't even looked at it. So that is definitely a yellow spot because I've also heard like not great things. I don't know if it's 2 T's. We're gonna have 2 T's for now for her name. Yeah, I just haven't looked at it and not interested whatsoever in picking it up. So that's a good yellow spot because it's not that long, so it's not like super intimidating to read. I just don't want to. So I think that's good. So we have our new ones on here, Priory of the Orange Tree on a red spot and The Betrayals by Bridget Collins on a yellow spot. And now we are going to go spin. I'm trying to set this up better so you can see the spin better. Okay, I feel like that's pretty good. So let's do a big spin. Are you actually kidding me? Are you actually kidding me? That's like actually a joke, right? Like that's really actually a joke. And I don't get respins. I don't do respins because I would respin every time. Okay, the silver lining here is that second prequel book is coming out, and I did want to read Priory of the Orange Tree before that came out. I guess that actually works out, but I don't like it. I don't like it. That is literally the one I didn't want. Okay, we're gonna read Priory of the Orange Tree, guys. All right, here's the baby. I really don't want to do this. And I am determined not to DNF this because I'm just going to take my time with it. This may go into April. And April's pick might be like later in the month this time. But I am determined to take my time with it and not DNF it because this is definitely a book that I can find myself like DNFing. I'm also gonna be really mad if I end up loving this and I didn't get the Illumicrate or the Broken Binding editions, which would be on par for me. That would definitely be on par for me. But okay, we're gonna be reading Priory of the Orange Tree. I don't really even know what it's about. This was a cover buy for me. This is what I get. This is what I get for cover buying. House of Berethnet has ruled Innis for 1,000 years. Still unwed, Queen Sabran IX must conceive a daughter to protect her realm from destruction, but assassins are getting closer to her door. E. Durian is an outsider at court. Though she has risen to the position of lady-in-waiting, she is loyal to a hidden society of mages. He keeps a watchful eye on Sabran, secretly protecting her with forbidden magic. Across the Dark Sea, Tane has trained to be a dragon rider since she was a child, but is forced to make a choice that could see her life unravel. Meanwhile, the divided East and West refuse to parley, and forces of chaos are rising from their sleep. Sounds like the entire Throne of Glass series in one book. So we're gonna see how it goes. I notoriously don't do well reading high fantasy, but yeah, I don't really have a choice now, so I'll start this at some point. I got a ton of other stuff I need to read before February ends, because I always roll or spin a couple weeks early, so yeah, I gotta read that stuff first, then we will be starting Pride of the Orange Tree. It is March 13th, and I have officially started Pride of the Orange Tree. It took me quite a while to start it because I was in a bit of a reading slump, and I did have a couple of books I had to get through for some other videos before I started this. So I finally finished that vlog. That should be coming out, today's Monday, tomorrow. That should be coming out tomorrow, and I hope it does well. My vlogs definitely are like, they do the worst out of all my videos because most people are here for like unboxings and random stuff. Like I did a come shop with me and it's doing really well, and I thought that was gonna have maybe 100 views and it's got like 6 something, and I'm like, I don't understand. I don't understand, but whatever. So I'm trying to get my vlogs to do better because that's what I eventually want to probably have most of my channel, or at least like a couple more than I do currently, because right now I think I'm doing like 1 a month because they just take me a long time, so maybe I won't have more of them. But anyway, this is probably coming out in April. This is gonna take me forever. I have 2 bookmarks in here because I'm going to try and read 100 pages. I am on page 8, and I will say I like the writing. It doesn't seem overly complex like another book I'm reading right now. I don't know what this is about other than dragons, and I heard it's sapphic, right? I don't remember if it is or not. I think I read it in like the opening, but that was literally like 2 weeks ago, so I'm going into it pretty much blind. Like I said, I kind of like the writing. It seems simplistic compared to what I thought it was gonna be, but there's already like so many names. There's been 8 pages and there's 3 characters and a bunch of like names of islands and languages already. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna get a notebook. I'm gonna use the notebook that just came in the Illumicrate, I think. Yeah, I don't know if it was the Illumicrate or the Alcrate. No, it was the Alcrate. I'm gonna use this notebook and track what's going on, names, etc. But I really, really want to read 100 pages of this today, though. So hopefully I have some sort of update after I read 100 pages. But other than that, that's all I gotta say so far. It is April 27th. I have no idea when the last time I updated was, because I haven't read anything. This is supposed to be my March Wheel of No Appeal book choice, and it's just not going well. I feel like I finally got into a rhythm. I'm starting to read this book specifically. I wasn't bored. I was just so intimidated that I just stopped reading it. So, but I think I'm good now. I think I'm good now. I've started reading it again. I have finally made it to page 100. Oh my god, it's so bad. But I'm enjoying it. I am enjoying it. I'm really glad I took really good notes because it was so long since I'd read it. I had to read all like my notes back and figure out who the people were, all the stuff going on. I think I get really intimidated by books where there's a lot of characters, and because there's like an East set of characters and a West set of characters, it was really hard to keep track of, even taking notes at first. So I just needed like some time to process and then come back to it, and that's where I'm at now. We're doing it, and I really hope that I'm gonna finish it soon. I have other things going on at the same time too that I have to read, which is like crap. There's just a lot. I definitely feel like I bit off more than I can chew with this book specifically. So I'm doing my best. I'm doing my best. The update that I have is basically that I am enjoying it. It's an interesting read. Again, it's a lot easier read than I thought it would be, other than just remembering all the characters. I'm at the point where our main character from the West, Ede, is kind of getting to know the Queen a little bit better, and the Queen is literally unbearable. She is the definition of how I imagine most like royals to act, where the second you say something that goes against what they want, they turn into these little brats because no one ever speaks against what they want for fear of, you know, being put to death. And that's definitely how Queen Sabrin acts, and she drives me nuts. She drives me nuts. My favorite point of view is actually Loth's point of view, which is also from the West. The West in general is my favorite. The East is much more underdeveloped compared to the West at the current moment. So anytime I read like an East chapter, I'm kind of just like, right now. Anytime I read a West chapter, I'm like, yes, I'm loving this. But specifically in the West chapters, I'm obsessed with Loth's point of view because they are going to Yscallan, which is like the evil empire. So I'm really excited to keep reading specifically from that point of view. Having a great time with that. In general, I mean, I'm having a good time. I am curious what they're going to do with the East, because there really hasn't been much progress with that side within 100 pages. There's just been like a brief intro about the dragon riding, etc., and our main character on that side, and some of the politics on that side. But other than that, there's really not that much going on over there. But there's a ton going on with the West, and I'm really enjoying it. So I'm going to continue reading this morning. I have a doctor's appointment today, but that should be rather quick. And then I have Thursday, Friday to read, and I'm so sad because I work this weekend. And it also happens that all my Patreons are doing their readathons this weekend. So, and I work second shift, so I will be at work while all the reading sprints are happening, all the movie nights are happening, and I'm so upset because that just sounds like so much fun, and I'm gonna be at work. I'm also watching, I'm on a big horror movie kick. I'm always on a horror movie kick, but I'm trying to like get to my backlist movies that I was a little intimidated to watch. So right now I'm watching X, which is an A24 production. Yeah, I'm really excited to watch it. I just watched Midsummer like 2 days ago, and I really liked it, except for that I wasn't a big fan of like the second half of the movie. Once all the weird shit started happening, I stopped liking it. Actually, I actually really liked the opening of the movie into like, I would say I probably liked about an hour and a half of the movie, and the last half an hour kind of lost me a little bit. But otherwise, I really liked that one. I loved Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. I watched that yesterday. One of my new favorite movies. It was so funny and so good. I loved it. I absolutely love that movie. So I'm hoping I really like X. I know it's a little more edgy, so we're gonna see about it. But that's kind of my plans this morning. And I am going to the library later today, which will be fun. So that's kind of, the library is my yay, you went to the doctor. That's what's happening. So that's all I've got for now. I will update you maybe every 100 pages or every 150 pages. It just depends if something happens. So at this point, I'll probably be updating less and trying to read more. It just depends if my opinions change or anything like that. So I will see you in the next update. Okay, so I am officially on to part 2 of Pride of the Orange Tree. I am so flippin' proud of myself for like forcing myself to get back into it and reading it, and it's only been a couple of days, which is really exciting. It is now Sunday, April 30th, so I'm making, I feel like, pretty good progress. I did work yesterday and I'm working today, so it is a little slower because of that, but I'm making progress. I feel like I'm starting to finally grasp exactly like where the story is going. Part 1 definitely was a lot of background, a lot of setup, introducing all the characters. We had our first like character death, not like a big character, but it was definitely like a character that you knew enough that it was like, oh, kind of surprised this early. But it definitely sets the stakes of like, okay, so there are going to be some character deaths in this. This is not going to be like a safe ride through the book. Because everyone right now is pretty much on what I feel like is an even playing level, just different ways. So right now we have a couple of main characters. We have Loth, who is in the like bad kingdom and he's trying to figure some stuff out. So he has his own perspective. We have Eid, who is trying to save the queen of Inez. And we also have the queen, who's become a bigger character than I thought. And I have an idea that potentially there's going to be a romance between Eid and the queen, which is interesting because I'm not the biggest fan of the queen. She's growing on me as the book is going on, so I'm sure that's gonna continue, but that feels like that might be a thing. And then we have, shoot, I don't remember her name because she has not been in it that much. Whoever the dragon rider is in the east, or is it the west? Now I'm getting confused. The east. In the east, whoever the dragon rider is, she's one of our main characters. I don't know where that's going yet. And then we also have Niclais, who is also in the east, and he is, I don't know what's going on at that side. The east has definitely had much less than the west page time, so I'm not exactly sure where the stuff in the east is going. So I'm not sure. I think her name's Tane. Her and Niclais in the east, not sure about that. I'm really enjoying the west, and there's definitely a lot going on at the west. And yeah, that kind of wrapped up nicely the part 1, so that now we have like new set of things happening in part 2. So like it got us through part 1, a bunch of events happened, and now part 2 is, it really does feel like a part 2. Like it's not just like a break in the story. It's like, okay, now there's a totally different set of adventures and set of stakes that are active now. So that is very interesting. I'm enjoying that. Every single story had that happen. So now I feel like starting part 2 is just, it's a wild card what's going to happen from now on. So very interesting how that was done. I like how that was done. I am enjoying it. I'm enjoying it. It's just, there's so much information. It's just a lot. It's a lot. I really think I would have preferred this book to have been split up into multiple books. I don't know. That's a personal preference kind of thing. Some people really like really long books. I am not one of those people. I get distracted. Like I feel like I've read a whole book having been done with part 1, even though I think it's only 250 pages, but it feels like I've read a whole book. So part of me like wants it to be done so that I can move on to something else and then come back to the series. It's kind of just how my brain prefers it. But that being said, I am very much enjoying it. I'm excited to get to part 2, and I have started it a little bit, so I kind of know what we're starting to do, and there's some journey things happening. There's some more political intrigue being introduced into the book, etc. So very, very interesting what's happening. Yes, I know my Christmas tree is still up. I love it. We keep it up year round. Just this one. We have like 6 others in the house that we do take down. I like Pride of the Orange Tree, but I am not enjoying the East storyline. I think it's like official, like currently. Again, that could change because I liked it originally, but we finally saw our main character, I guess kind of Niclais, I feel like, is our main character, but our other main character is Tane, and she's the dragon rider, and we finally saw her from Niclais's point of view. And he wouldn't be in the situation that he's in. No one would be in the situation that they're in the East if it weren't for her trying not to get in trouble, basically, and being selfish. So because everything is her fault, it's really annoying. Like, seeing her from her perspective, she's like almost like this kid, kind of meek, downtrodden. She is at a disadvantage compared to everybody else. But seeing her from the perspective of Niclais and other people, I hate her. I really don't like her. So now, like, when it switched to being in her perspective, I was like not interested, like, at all. Like, I could not care less what she had to say. And I don't like the storyline that is happening in the East right now. I really am uncomfortable with it, just because it's one of those like, oh, people know things, and if it comes out, a bunch of people are gonna get in trouble. So I'm just like, I don't like it. There's a lot of secrets. There's a lot of stuff going on that I'm just like not a fan of. So I'm not a big fan of East, which is, it's good because West is still way more important. And now I think South, I don't remember if South or North is the new perspective. So I'm liking West, and I think it's South. But man, East is not fun to read anymore. It's just absolutely not fun to read anymore. So it's kind of become a hiccup now where I'm like, I don't really want to read it right now because I don't want to get to East chapters. So I am trying to push through that and continue, but I have so many other books that I want to read. It's got me sidetracked, which is not great, but we're gonna try and read more. I think I'm at page like 300 still of like 750 or 800, so there's plenty of book to go, plenty of stuff that can change, obviously. I just want to get past this like secrets part, and then I think I'll like the East side better. So it's kind of like what I'm thinking of right now. Like 100 pages away from part 3, and I really wasn't going to update, but I'm so beyond annoyed with the East perspective. I so don't like it, like, at all. I don't like what just happened. I don't like this type of plot line. I'm just so annoyed. I will say West had my mouth drop open. I was shocked. The West is like, yeah, the West is so good. It's so good. The character development in the West, the action that's going on in the West, like, yeah, surprised. I was really, really surprised that the author did something. And I was like, dang. So I was a little taken aback by what just happened and a reveal and a character dying. And I was like, but yeah, very surprised. Loving the West, really, really disliking the East point of view. To the point that I am just like wanting to skim and just ignore it, but I obviously know I can't, and important things are gonna happen, but I don't even really like the dragons in it. I was really surprised because I tend to like dragon stories, but I really just like am about the dragons in this too. And I think it's just because I don't like the people in East, so I just don't care, and therefore don't care about the dragons either. So it's kind of upsetting. I had like higher hopes for that side of the storyline, but it's just getting worse. It's getting worse. And so I'm really hoping maybe in part 3, which we're almost to, it'll pick up a little bit. So now I probably won't update until part 4 unless something happens. I don't know. I'm trying to keep these updates short because the book is so freaking long. I don't want this to be literally millions of years long. So I just finished part 3 of Pride of the Orange Tree. I'm on page 506, basically right when the first chapter of part 4 starts. I didn't like it. I'm so disappointed because I feel like part 1 was good building, kind of boring, but I was fine with it. Part 2 was so good. I loved part 2. I feel like a lot of good stuff happened. Still didn't like what was going on with the dragon stuff in it. I just don't like that part. And Tanae and Roose, I don't like any of that that's going on still. But I loved Ede's part and Sabrin. I love the West. It's just so cool. It's so cool. And then part 3 happened, and yeah, really didn't like anything that pretty much happened in part 3. I feel like I liked the beginning of it, but in general, part 3 just is not the tropes that I like. I don't like running away from things. I don't like travel. I don't like just a lot of the stuff that happened. Just a lot of the stuff that happened. I don't know. My favorite character is Arlac, which is hilarious. I love the little, I guess not little, but giant mongoose thing. I don't really know what he's supposed to look like. I totally forgot like his original description, but obsessed with him. But otherwise, I'm just like, there's portions that I'm enjoying. Of course, I'm still enjoying Ede's story the most, but I don't like where her story went in this section. I like that we finally got some answers that were kind of very obvious, but I'm part 3 bored me to tears. So going into part 4, I don't have a lot of hope, but it looks like part 3 was like a get everybody back together kind of thing and tell everybody like the secrets that are going on. So like I feel like a lot of characters learned a lot of stuff in part 3, and now we're kind of gonna revert back to doing stuff that we were doing in part 2. Like the thing is, part 2 had so much action, it was so good, and then part 3 just was like, it dragged. It just dragged so much. I have low and high expectations at the same time for part 4, so we're gonna see how it goes. At this point, I'm kind of just like slogging through it. So I'm hoping I like part 4 better so that this becomes more enjoyable of an experience again, because right now, not enjoying the experience. Okay, so I have finished what part am I on? 4. I finished part 4. I think I have 2 parts left. I liked it better. Okay, I'm back in. I feel like we got even more reveals, and these reveals were like, whoa. So I have to say that I am back interested. I feel like I liked this section more because we barely had anything about the East and the dragons and stuff, and I feel like I normally love dragon things, but anything that has been about dragons in this book, I have not liked. So that is quite shocking. Like, really surprising. But the West part got so good again, so good, and then the details that emerge about what's going on, so good. So I'm very excited to go into part 5, but I don't know what's gonna happen because, like, the way that part 4 ended was quite shocking. So I don't know how they're going to resolve some of the stuff that's happening currently. So I'm very excited to start part 5. I feel like I could potentially finish this tonight, depending on how late I stay up, because again, I have less than 200 pages left, and I am reading rather quickly. I'm not actually reading the physical book, I'm reading the Scribd version of the book. Luckily, Scribd has the physical book, so I've been reading that on my, like, Kindle reader or whatever it's called, so that's made it go by, like, super, super fast. I'm excited to get into part 5. I feel like I'm just repeating myself. There's not that much to say about this book because it's just kind of the same plotline happening over and over again, and I can't, like, tell you what's happening other than I generally still like Loth. I like Ede. I love Ede. Ede is my favorite character in this book. Love Aralac. Love Queen Sabrin. I just love that whole storyline. And I hate Niclais Roos with a fiery passion. I hate him. Like, I so hate him. And I am surprised about some of the deaths, like off-screen deaths that like came up later, and I was like, oh dang. So that's pretty much all I can say about it though. But I'm back to enjoying it. Not as much as I was enjoying part 2, but we're moving on. I have done the unthinkable for me, and I have finished The Priory of the Orange Tree. Guys, I literally can't believe I actually finished this book. This is the most intimidating book, I would say, on my entire TBR, and I actually finished it. So I feel like just this video alone, The Wheel of No Appeal, has been a complete success because it did make me read this, even though it took me 3 months to do it. Because when did I start this? I think in my book I started this March 11th, and it is now May 15th. But I finished it, and I read the majority of it in May. Like, I pretty much sat down last night and decided I would read the final 200 pages and just finish it. And this morning I did have like about 30 pages because I got to like 2 a.m. and I was like, I gotta go to sleep. I have to go to sleep. I work today. So I'm actually filming this right before I go to work. I have been thinking about this book all morning after I finished it and what I want to say about it, but I guess we'll start with my rating first. I am rating this a 3.75. This is just one of those books that has so many good aspects to it, and then so many aspects that I wish had been tweaked or changed that I can't 100% say I loved it, but I also can't say that I didn't like it. So a 3.75 I feel like is the perfect rating because it's definitely above average. I think it's definitely above average. I loved some sections of it. I liked some sections of it. I really hated some sections of it. So that's kind of where my rating comes from because it's just such a dynamic, ever-changing book because of how long it is. I mean, that's where you get a problem with books this long, is you're gonna love some sections, you're gonna hate some sections. So a book this long is just really, really hard to rate. One major change, we're gonna get into things that I liked and didn't like, but it all spoiler free. We're not gonna do any spoilers in this video. But the one major thing, and the thing that I've seen some complaints about after I finished this, so looked it up, and I agree with them, this should have been 2 separate books. This would have been a really good duology if you, I think it was part 3? If you ended after part 3, but made both books, so this is about 804 pages with like an appendix at the end. If you had split this into 2 books, make each book about 550 pages, then this would have been a phenomenal duology because the world is so cool, but there's so much more you could have done about it. Like the Priory of the Orange Tree section of it could have been explored so much more. It was naming this Priory of the Orange Tree, I feel like was just picked because it's a cool name, where really it was important, but it really wasn't like the focus of this book. It was kind of something just like a secret, and then eventually the secret came out. So naming this part of the orange tree is just kind of like almost a gimmick, I feel like, because it just sounds so cool. But it was not that important. So I feel like what you needed to do was split the books in half and really go into the backstory of the Priory, or go into just daily life there, who is there, because you really just weren't in the Priory for that long. And you don't understand the rules, you don't understand the magic fully, it just wasn't fully developed, especially that section. And I feel like that was the problem with the book this big, is the author was like, okay, I want to write a standalone, which now it's technically not. I want to write a standalone where it's super all-encompassing, it has a lot of detail, and it's a fully enveloped story in one thing that's high fantasy. And I think she accomplished that. However, because it was not split into this multi-book thing with such a diverse and huge world, there are sections that could have been explored significantly more. Because the evil place, Yscallan, we could have had a whole section, bigger section about that. It was very short. The Priory, like I said, that needed such a bigger section. We needed more. As much as I didn't like the point of view from the East, it needed to be bigger, because I feel like the person who was most important in the East was not that, like, part of, like, he was holding something important, like he knew important information, but that's it. But he was like the focus. Niclais Roos was like the focus of the East, but by the end the important person was supposed to be Tanae, and she was just like almost non-existent throughout the book. And I agree with the people who said like the East point of view is just so muted that by the end of the book, when Tanae is super important, you don't care and you don't really understand. So you definitely need more of her story in there, and you also needed more of the dragons. I feel like for something that lauded this dragon-filled story, it really wasn't that big of a deal until the end. But you could have done so much more with the dragon writing. You could have done so much more with the dragon writing school. But I just like, because we didn't know the dragon writer in this, when she became like a badass at the end, I was like, is she? Like, how does she know how to do all these things? Like, I really, like, she's never been in a war situation. She's never actually fought people. I think, which is why I connected to Ede's character so much, because Ede's character was so fleshed out. She was phenomenal. So by the end, you're like, yes, like you get it with her. And I feel like that was a huge missing part of Tanae. So yeah, that goes back to this really needing to be 2 to 3 500-page books instead of one ginormous 800-page book. So the things that I loved about this book, definitely the setting. The world building was really, really good. I did say there does need to be a little bit more, I think, with some of the countries barely mentioned, but very cool world. Very, very, very cool world. I loved imagining it. It was very easy to imagine, especially during the traveling. And it was just, oh, it was so cool. And I love the addition of like the abyss that separated parts of the world. So it was really easy to like make them into like almost quadrants. And of course the map helped massively. I also loved Ede, and I loved the West's storyline. It was so good. I loved the characters for the most part. There's 2 characters I really didn't like, but I love the characters, the development, the relationships between the characters. Just the West part of it was so brilliantly done, and I love Ede. Ede is one of my favorite characters in like any book. I am obsessed with her. She is so cool. I love her. She is a badass. Yeah, I'm obsessed with her. I love that this was easy to read. I know it took me a really long time, but I never felt like I was really struggling to grasp any of the concepts. I definitely feel like that's something that intimidates me about a lot of high fantasy and fantasy books in general, like adult fantasy, is that I'm not gonna understand what's going on, because I don't have like the best memory. So when I read books that are really complicated, most of the time I end up giving up because I don't remember stuff that's happened, etc. So this, very easy, accessible. I think this is a great beginner book for people who want to get into high fantasy, because this is something that made me, like, even though I didn't love it, it made me be like, oh, maybe I actually can read some more high fantasy, more complex systems. So this is definitely like very, very great beginner book for people who want to get into it and want to understand everything that's going on. I love the dragons. I think the dragons were so cool. I loved the evil. I loved the plot line. I felt like it was so interesting and unique and really cool, and I think the dragons were utilized in a really interesting way. I would have loved more of it, because of how the book was plotted out. I would say almost like 70% to 70 to 75% of this book was West, and 25%, actually I would say like 4% of this book was dragons, and then the rest was like following Nicolaus around in the East. So I feel like that was, again, another big bummer was the lack of their use of dragons. I'm getting into things that I didn't like because I'm like nitpicking at this book. I love the magic systems. I do wish there had been a little bit more explaining of it because the magic system confused me a little bit. I would probably have to go back and kind of read some excerpts online about the magic a little bit. I understood one side of the magic, but I got a little confused about the other one. I also loved the twists. I thought the twists were really good. The explanation of things where everything ties together, I thought was very interesting. Brought us back to this like history of all the nations and where everything splintered and everything comes back together. Love that. I thought that was really cool. The action sequences were also so good. This author definitely knows how to write a really cool fight scene, and I love that. I love fight scenes in my books, so I was very, very impressed with that. Moving on to things that I didn't like. Like I said, should have been 2 books. This is just too long. It's too long, and you could have done more with splitting the books up. Almost give yourself some time to think about it and where you want the story to go and what you want to expand upon. I needed the Priory more expanded upon. I needed some of the characters more expanded upon to get to where we got at the end. The end was, I wouldn't say anticlimactic, but the final fight that this whole book is leading up to is maybe 50 pages, 60 to 50 pages. And that was wild. It felt too easy. But everything kind of just fell into her lap, and the ending just, it was too easy for these characters. And going along with that, I never felt the sense of fear for the characters because of how the deaths were written in this. Like, yes, there were deaths in this, but it was more of like off screen. So it was very weird. It was very interesting. I definitely think this author, at least in this book, I don't know about the prequel, is death averse, because I kind of liked it because there was no animals harmed. Like, you could tell when an author is like death averse because they don't even want animals harmed. Like, there were quite a few animals in this, and I am happy to note that there was no issues with that because I was nervous about that. But like, she even returned a horse to somebody that crossed a continent. So you can tell this author is just not keen to just have random bloodshed in her stories, which I actually kind of like, but it also adds this sense of a lack of urgency with the characters. Like, you're never like super afraid for the characters in this. So it kind of does make you not read as quickly, because like sometimes like in these books, like Throne of Glass, you're reading it like, oh, what's gonna happen, what's gonna happen, what's gonna happen. This was kind of like, okay, we're getting to the end, la 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 la. It was kind of like a stroll through a fantasy book instead of a mad dash of trying to find out what was happening to your characters. And then of course, I really hated the characters. I keep saying her name, Tane. That's just how I'm gonna say it. I know that definitely could be wrong. And Nicolaus. I hated those 2 characters, and I'm disappointed because I feel like at the end you were supposed to like Tane, and she is one of the most selfish characters I've ever read in a book. I could not stand her, and I feel like that goes with the character being a bit underdeveloped. So you definitely got her like darker side and her like selfish side, and then you got her like heroic side at the very end, but you needed something in the middle to weave those together. But she's so selfish. Everything she does is for her own gains, her own purposes, to assuage her own guilt, and it's just frustrating. It's so frustrating. Like, even her agreeing to help at the end was like for her own purposes and not for the sake of like the rest of the world. So I don't love that. I really did not like her character. And then Nicolaus is also one of the worst characters. He took up so much time in this book that was unnecessary. I loved him talking about his romance. I loved it. It was the most probably wrenching part of the whole book. But him as a character, I hated him. I really hated him. Him and Tane, so selfish. They're so selfish in their own space, trying to do all these things that are basically almost sabotaging the rest of the world. So I can't. That was my biggest gripe with this book, was just pretty much the entire East storyline. I did not enjoy. I really didn't. There were like little sections of it. And I also felt like she got stuff too easily as well. Like, everything came so easily for her, while Ede on the other side was like fighting tooth and nail for everything she had. And Tanya was just like, oh, I'm gonna do this and I'm amazing. I'm gonna go do this and I'm amazing. And I'm so good at things. And I'm just like, I hate you. I really hate you. So that was my biggest qualm, really, was just that east side of the book. I wish that something had been done differently with that and tweaked a little bit, and at least like keep everything the same fine, but give me a better arc in the middle for that character. And then I would have probably liked Tane better. So yeah, that's my thoughts on the book. I really enjoyed it. Like, I enjoyed getting through it. I'm glad it's over. I am undecided if I'm gonna do the prequel. I really don't know if I'm gonna read the prequel. I am waiting for it to come on paperback. I don't want to get it in hardcover. So I'm going to wait at least for paperback. So it'll probably be at least next year before I read it. But I am curious what they're going to talk about, because I am pretty deep in this world right now. So I am curious what the prequel is going to be about. Yeah, that's all I got for you. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm so glad I got through this. That means I got to film my next Wheel of No Appeal. I think I'm toying with the idea of spinning twice because I missed 2 months. I think it depends on what I land on, but I am taking off. You got a little sneak peek because you're here and you got to the end of the video. I will be taking off. Figured I'd have it with me. I will be taking off. Let's see. So Power of the Orange Tree comes off, obviously, because I just finished that. Empire of the Vampire is also coming off because I'm reading that for my next book catch up. So I am going to leave other books. Like, I'm going to leave Babylon here. I'm going to leave Legendborn. I'm going to leave other ones that are book box books, but I will be reading Empire of the Vampire in the next book box catch-up vlog for Illumicrate. So I'm just going to take it off because it obviously can't be in both videos. I don't know what I'm going to replace them with because I feel like those two are like definitely my scariest books. So I'm definitely going to have to go for a book that I literally just want like nothing to do with that I own, which is going to be interesting finding. I'm sure I have plenty. I have tons on my backlist that I just haven't dealt with. So yeah, so that's a little sneak peek. I might spin twice. I don't know. I feel like it's gonna depend on what the first spin is, or I might just try and do two. I'll probably just do like two separate. I don't know what I'm doing. I said I wanted to get through at least 10, I think, this year, and I've already used up April. Yeah, April, because I guess that is March's spin. So I used up a month. So I guess I could just move on. So I will be spinning for May, though. I will be spinning for May, and hopefully it is a short one. So that's kind of my little sneak peek. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you guys are excited for the next one. And if you got to the end of this, leave a little orange, because, you know, Power of the Orange Tree. Or a tree. Orange or a tree, whichever one you like better. I'll know what you mean. So all right, that's all I have for you today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Make sure you subscribe for more content, more Wheel of No Appeal, more book box things, etc. And make sure you like the video and leave a comment down below what you thought about the book, if you read it or if you want to read it. And like I said, I tried to make this as spoiler free as possible so that everyone could watch it. And yes, I had a lot of fun. I got through a crazy, scary book, so I'm so happy. And I'll see you guys in the next one.